Hello, do you wake me up? Wake me up. I've been asleep, but I don't know if I had a dream. Is I really the dream still? Please wake me up. You know why? Because I lead on, then I hear Chernoh in voice, the carafilu of the new direction. But guess what they talk about? The chief minister and the missing billions of leons. Well, according to he said the office of the chief minister, they use this money the way how they're not supposed to use them. They use this money and not follow the right procurement procedure. They use this money and some people their name not even reflects fine one of waiting at the real thing where they give them money they ask for now the office of the chief minister. So this make us still the feel say at the dream because for let China just release, then they talk about the chief minister. Oh my God, this is something where you need for listening. But please, let me tell you something. I want you take note because all the way we post video, we always they tell you say take note of certain things them here. Listen to the words them where they come out of everybody in mouth. From the one where they interview to the one where they answer the question them. Okay, so listen and listen very well. Pay attention. I come back just now. Look and talk about waiting. We hear it from the interview. By the way, then do this now. Radio Democracy Good Morning Salon, yeah? As Mabel Kaba and Asma James be in the interview, the African Express. After that, they come and tell you who that come next and waiting come after that.
Line now, we want for welcome Chernor Bah, but firstly, before they get Chernor on the line, we go want for let una know say the African Express, na a US-based press, we say then they for provide grassroots African perspective and self-progressive on all wetin dey happen na the lives of African them. Well, they don't they do this work as they say then same way so they expose corruption, then they defend the media and help for promote democracy and good governance na African country them. And we go on for know this PNTM. We see the African Express since March 2020 been on the pull different publication them outside they make allegations them first on the first lady office, they keep them with the president and in WEF don't they do. And the latest one where we see now outside them pull publication again on couple where they say the chief minister in office be done they use but not been go through some procurement process them. Well, we want to know how the African Express they do all of this. We get on the line now. Chernor Bah, we are the editor for the African Express. Good morning and welcome to the program. Good morning, Salon Chernoh.
Yes, thank you very much, 98.1, and good morning, Australian.
All right, I don't briefly tell listeners them about on our work, but before we can look at the details of the different publications them where the African Express be done the police BNTM for Seka how government officials them na salon be done they use the country in couple. Just quickly start for tell we how long the African Express don't they operate.
Well, the African Express a project an organization we start from 2001, and so for the past years now, the organization they look at various issues around governance, democratic participation, and the fight against corruption throughout African countries, and especially. But I think the current, what's more important in this case, that the current project who they look at that alone, they're part of a 3-country program for examining new governments that will emerge, especially in the West African region, in between 2016 to 2018, and that got to do with the government of the Gambia with Adama Barrow, following the election of the election will remove the long-term dictator Yahya Jammeh. Then we get also the new government of Liberia, and then the election of retired Brigadier Amada Biona at Sierra Leone. So the current Sierra Leone project fall within these 3-country projects for examine how these new, what we call new regimes emerge in this West African region. One Liberia, one Sierra Leone, and also this one Gambia, and foresee the different challenges. We talk about Gambia, for example, the constitutional crisis where they emerged, and then Liberia again, the first election after the war will lead to a transition from an incumbent to an opposition party, and in the case of Sierra Leone, we're in a continuation of transitions where they take place since 2002. So we try to examine the new patterns of democratization, basically in Africa, and that include the management of resources, the structural arrangements of governance, and the quality of governance generally. So that within this scope, the Sierra Leone project, fall in place. But the investigation at Sierra Leone again lasts for 14 months of looking at public finance management, especially so if you remember when we get the transition in April 2018, the government passed two executive orders. Executive order number 1, we talk about revenue mobilization, domestic revenue mobilization, and then executive order number 2, we talk about fiscal control measures. And these, they're in line with waiting the new government within our power now talk about in the new direction manifesto and all of that. So we're going to try to track public expenditure under the bureau regime for see how the conduct of the government also they're in line with the manifesto promises where the government make. So these publications basically they interrogate the promises of the government based on the manifesto promises where they make. And if you look, then they don't talk about them, they don't even assess themselves and say they don't deliver on a number of those manifestos. So we try as an organization to see, okay, on the question of economic management of the resources, public finances, whether this government actually committed to corruption, and the pronouncement of the government, both in the manifesto before they come power and then performance over this period of 3 years, whether exactly the public pronouncements match the actual performance.
Look at the current projects where you say on they focus na Salon, Gambia, and Liberia. We they can look at the allegations where don't they come out for Salon. But back to the Africanist press. You say when I begin work inside 2001, and this BNTM we really don't they see where to not don't they do na Salon especially. But let we share who that then are the brain behind the Africanist press and self also on they get support from.
Oh, we're an independent organization of academics and researchers spread across various universities in the African continent. Some journalists, at least we don't get experience in media practice for a minimum of 10 years, and other people, and they were non-Africans, basically academics where they do research on Africa. For example, myself, currently as the editor-in-chief. I don't do media practice for more than 10 years. Last time I was editor of Concord Times, I think around 2005 or so. But besides that, I also right now they complete a PhD. My other two colleagues will write the series on Sierra Leone right now. Also one a doctoral student at the University of Pittsburgh. Another one again, a professor at the University of Louisville, with director of publication, also a professor at the University of Louisville. So this is an organization of academics and journalists where they carry out research on various subjects of African development. Some specialize in media freedom, some specialize in different aspects of socioeconomic developments in Africa. And plenty of we again in the Africanist press again now veteran journalists. Some don't practice to the level of being editors, others correspondents of different agencies. Then we are independently funded. We don't get any association of organizations where they fund with. Basically, they pull together with resources from these various research organizations.
So, Chernoh, now to the issues
carry out with projects.
Now to the issues of corruption allegations where the Africanist press be on the pool since March 2020, where we don't go to the latest one we get for do with the chief minister in office. Let we first know waiting na the idea behind the set of people and we wanna start for look at the office of the presidency, the first lady, and now we see the chief minister.
No, I think if you start from that point, you don't kind of the second phase of the project. Like I say, the Sierra Leone project basically they interrogate the manifesto promises of the government of Sierra Leone. You remember President Julius Maada Bio and the SLPP promised a new direction. And when Nankana Power, for example, then talk about reduction of waste, and closing down leakages, and a number of measures, including reduction in travel expenditure. We start with a situation where the government been to talk about, say, they inherit a broken economy, and we all witnessed the pervasive corruption which did not take place in the previous 10 years before the government came. So by promising the people of Sierra Leone a reduction in public waste, in prudent financial management, so we decided to check whether 2 years down the line, how the government don't fare on. And that came about from the fact that they don't implement a single treasury account, they don't supposedly centralize revenue mobilization and expenditure in the hands of a single ministry. So which means that all sort of wastage will be happening in government agencies, ministries, and departments, but don't reduce. But still we witness inflation may happen, commodity prices may go up, and a point towards even towards the end of 2019, they may talk about the difficulties in paying salaries. So all of this why we think there must be something associated with public finance difficulties what we need for interrogate. So basically we try to hold the government accountable based on the promises that they've made and to see whether they have lived up to the manifesto promises of reducing high-end expenditure for cut down wastage, for reduce the size of travel delegations and all of that. And we can notice, in fact, President Maada Bio has been the most highly traveled president in recent times. So how much that don't cost the people of Sierra Leone in terms of public finance expenditure and things like that. So we start with, for example, the Minister of Finance, because we notice if you don't mop up all of these wastages, you don't centralize, if they announce how much they generate on a daily basis and how much they spend, to the point that they claim then they pay salaries now without domestic borrowing. We need to find out if it is not true. And we still say with the inflation and all of that, something was wrong. And when we look now, we find out that in fact, the wage bill don't increase. So if you remember, the first article we published on March 1, 2020, got to do with the bloated wage bill. The government been talk say in the election promises that they therefore reduce the size of the expenditure where they go on the payroll. Then we find out the payroll don't increase by 45% in the 2 years, getting to 2 years when they can have power. And we published that article showing, for example, the salaries of newly appointed political appointees from the financial secretary that was earning more than 80 million leones a month. We compare them with other junior civil servants at the Ministry of Finance, for example, who we are getting less than 2 million leones. That was very scandalous. And we see the government developed a creative mechanism to which they hide corruption in the payroll by rewarding the political party appointees with these positions that they create high-end salaries. Very recently, we even identified a situation where, for example, the nutritionist of the president, the cameraman of the president, all these people get more than 20 million leones a month, when university professors do not earn up to 20 million leones. So we aggregate them here. We say, oh, this situation is not different from what don't happen. In fact, the government don't accelerate public expenditure to 45% when it comes to the payroll. So if you see, there's a systematic approach to this situation in which we begin to look sector by sector. We go to foreign travel taxes. We go to telecommunication companies that are not paying taxes. We went on to the process of maritime administration. You see the scandal where they happened there regarding corruption. So throughout the government, up to now, that we begin to estimate again travel expenditure by the president, how much it don't cost the people of Sierra Leone. So we find out that systematically, if you observe, there is a complete dichotomy or difference between what in the government they say and what in actually they happen. And we decided to show this one with primary documentation. Like, for example, Minister of Finance, we show the payroll where they show, say, senior political appointees, people making $300, $400 a day as consultants.
Hello, Mr. Bah.
And issues of double dipping and all of these things pervasive in the thing. So basically, I would draw the attention of the government, say you have operated completely in opposite to the manifesto promises that you gave to the people, and that your public pronouncements are not reflective of what is actually happening in governance.
So, Mr. Bah, let me look at the last publication the MOE don't do. More get for do with procurement, which we can't talk about later. But you look at more publication they get for do with expenditure of waiting governments really they spend, and you based on waiting you don't they publish, you they compare than the expenditure to corruption.
Corruption in the first place is not just the diversion of public money into personal ends. Corruption, now the flouting of procedures. Because what you are aiming at, looking at now on the question of procurement and all of these are basically manifestations of corruption, some aspect of it. But when you talk about corruption in the first place, we publish, like I've been saying earlier, in the case of the payroll, you develop an advanced mechanism through which you hide, you understand, you hide and legitimize the method of diverting public funds by creating salaries for political appointees way more than regular civil servants. So, or you take advantage of travel. You take advantage of travel per diem by saying, because somebody they travel go New York, you're entitled to per diem, and you make frequent travel by specific officials. Who are these officials who are traveling? So you find out the government starts first in the beginning. You should ask the question to get at this. Ask the question: why government been they publish the list of presidential delegates or people who may travel abroad, and now then suddenly they stop that because the travel expenditure. Now, one of the means to which then they justify the diversion of public money to their own end. So these patterns of corruption, innovative and creative methods of diverting public resources is reflected in the government. So they find them through travel expenditure, through increase in salaries, through procurement, through all of these methods. That is what we've been highlighting in various sector by sector, department by department, every department where you look, and then it comes to the question of illegal public spending as well. A situation
in all
where
of this
you spend
investigation,
money.
Mr. Bah, let me look at in all of this investigation where you don't do as investigative journalist. Also, it require you forget the other side of the post people and we don't when they investigate. In all of this, you don't ever try forget onto the other side of them people there where you can name in this investigation.
Well, of course, we get letters where we write to emails, correspondences in which we write to government agencies and departments. In some of the previous publications, we interview some of the officials who are willing to be interviewed. In other instances, we call public officials, they refuse to respond. These are reflected in some of the reports. So in 14 months, first and foremost, we collect primary evidence. We therefore deal with government correspondences, government data as you see. There has never been any publication by the Africanist Press in which each of the publications are supported by triangulated evidence. The evidence, they come from government, their own correspondences and documents. For example, we'll talk about, say, the Minister of Finance, wage bill don't increase. We support them by providing the evidence, showing, for example, that the Financial Secretary earns more than 86 million leones a month. The Financial Secretary come out after the publication and say, yes, indeed, it earned that salary, but that's a salary inherited. Where we publish, for example, the Office of the First Lady saying that the Office of the First Lady received an illegal budgetary allocation of $3 million, the equivalent of $3 million in less than 3 years. The Office of the First Lady come out, the First Lady come out and say, yes, he received the money, and he begin to justify. So basically, there has never been any of the publications running up to almost a year now by the Africanist Press in which any of these officials deny the authenticity of the publications. What they have been trying to do is to rationalize, or justify their action. And the rationalization either for say this has been how they meter in the case of salaries, they say to APC leper. Okay? But they forgot that they promised a departure from the old ways of doing things. So we don't make effort to talk to these people. For example, we talk about, there was one instance in which we sent a letter we made phone calls to NACOVAC people. For example, when we get this correspondence where the Attorney General was asking the audit service not to investigate, not to audit NACOVAC, for stop the audit because they claimed that there was an emergency. We called the Attorney General. They say, they talk to we.
All
Then
right,
we
Mr.
also
Bah.
send an email. No, I just want to answer your question. We also sent an email to NACOVAC. They refused. They only responded after the publication came out.
All right,
That is
so
like
let me look at
48
the
hours
salaries
after.
of people
So,
them where you they always
public
where you talk
officials,
about.
we're willing for entertain other side of the voices, but at the same time, let us underline the fact that no public official don't ever deny any of the evidence we have published. And that
So how you
includes
go?
from payrolls to bank statements to official correspondences of government officials. They
So
cannot.
equate people and salary to corruption.
Oh, yeah. People and salary to corruption. That what we call legitimizing. Corruption is not just an innovative mechanism to which a government creates a method for thief government money. For example, this government promise for harmonize the salary. Okay, then say the previous government get a bloated wage bill. Read the manifesto of the SLPP when they were campaigning for power, and read the public pronouncements of the president and the finance minister in appropriation bills. What they talked about was they promised the harmonization of salaries, the new wage bill, and all of that. It is now 3 years, they haven't. In fact, it will even surprise people of Salem for notice. Since last year, when we published that payroll, the current financial secretary's pay don't even increase from 86 million now to 100 million with the new payroll. Check it out. Go to the Minister of Finance and ask them and show you the payroll. So they have increased their own salaries. And what did they do? Even 2 weeks ago, they passed a moratorium, say, department and agencies for stopped the own internal review of salaries because they then get a bill in a cabinet where the one can go to parliament. So what we are saying is that these people develop an advanced mechanism through which they hide the corruption in the payroll by making for themselves bigger salaries and less civil servants, regular civil servants, under the same difficult conditions. Then you don't understand. The same way we go allocate the office of the first lady, we're not a statutory institution, $3 million. Then they give lecturers salaries who have been on strike for several months now, demanding increase in wages. So this is corruption. It's both morally wrong
Mr. Bah?
and it's financially not prudent for a government that promised all of these things.
Mr. Bah, exposing
Yes.
corruption when I want to see them where the Africanist press they do. Going beyond that, I believe at the end of the day, when I expose corruption, when I think say they happen at certain public office, when I go one for the action be taken. Moving it from there, the Africanist press with all the publications the way una don't do and evidence them way una publish as well within the public now. Una willing if the Anti-Corruption Commission reach out to una as they don't begin investigate some of the thing them way una already don't publish. Una willing for help the Anti-Corruption Commission for fight corruption where una the alleged say they happen?
Interested you raised that question because the point is that late in the day for perhaps to make this media catch up with some of these things. But this is things we've said openly that in some of the online new media, people we don't they pay attention to what they publish and don't they provide with the platform for communicate some of the things that they publish. We don't talk say corruption is not just in the past. Corruption is a living organism. Okay? The government, this current government, they look at corruption only between what happened 2008 to 2018. And we they say corruption is a living organism, that the test of the corruption fight in Salon, which we are committed to supporting, is that the commission should be willing to look at corruption in the present continuous sense. That is what I have said as editor of the African Press, justifying this publication or talking about the rationale of this publication. We went as far as even saying on Sarah Gem Media that with the offer we expertise for free, we not even want the anti-corruption. We can even send people, if they guarantee them their security, non-Sierra Leoneans to assist them if they don't have the ability to do that. But look here, I think the question here, how will anti-corruption with their Scorpion squad be able to arrest somebody, Nakuntolo, we hide inside one buffer go catch her with exam paper, come parade on a street. Now, but they cannot see graft in high places, in banks and other things, and payroll, corruption, and the use of travel per diem, the loopholes in travel per diem for accumulate money for a set of officials, but they can see teachers who are stealing, who are supposedly stealing exams, but they cannot see this bigger corruption. So if they are will, but the Anti-Corruption Commission is on record for say we are sensational. It's in a sensational publications they make. They say we don't even know about corruption. Nobody dictates to him what his job is. We are not dictating. We are basically committed to highlighting some of these cases so we can improve the quality of governance in African environment, because the cost of corruption is huge. The cost of corruption is unquantifiable. Very few weeks ago, we talked about a healthcare worker who was dying because there's lack of resources for help this woman undergo a simple surgery. And you have government agencies and even non-government agencies like the Office of the First Lady sitting on huge resources when lecturers were not even having paid. So what we are saying is that until we remove the partisan approach to fighting graft and corruption within, for example, Sierra Leone, it's going to be a difficult task, and that is the problem. The Anti-Corruption Commission will provide details of this evidence of illegal spending or illegal allocation of government resources to the Office of the First Lady. What were they saying? They're saying a sensational thing until they are compelled by people's voices. Now people then complain, say question, say now the anti-corruption is going back 14 years ago to talk about corruption, which is fine to us. But what we are saying is they have to understand corruption is a dynamic force and a living organism. If they are willing to fight, the people of Sierra Leone ready for provide them with the evidence. Okay, if we can have access to some of these massive graft in public departments, agencies, and ministries, we see no reason why anti-corruption will able to go catch somebody in a corner, one village where the thief exam, they will identify corruption right across the road with the Minister of Finance.
In all of this, what do they hope for?
They can show the people of Sierra Leone that they are committed to this fight.
In all of this, the investigative journalism, so what they do, what do you hope for achieve?
No, not to me. Not when you say with me that you're personalizing it. Let us say what is the Africanist project higher goal. The goal here is to advance the quality of governance and democracy in Africa. And this Sierra Leone situation, an example of many other projects. The quality of governance has to do with the prudent management of financial resources. That includes the proper allocation of resources. Government resources are not the private property of politicians in power. That's African politicians need to know that. That the quality of governance moving from the management of public resources, we talk about also the quality of democracy, free speech. You understand the encouragement of multi-party democracy. But a situation where you even look at what happened a few days ago, where a bank official is sacked simply because he has made a comment regarding this accountability discussion that happened at the country. So what are we saying is that once that situation begin to happen, you are basically suppressing people, and when people are able to speak out, not able to participate in the debates on public policy and the management of the national resources of the country, you are basically, as a government, preventing yourself from harnessing the potentials in the country for advance the quality of governance and also the still we will have national development.
Some of the issues they are
so we come up with,
especially the latest one from the office. Hello. Especially the latest one from the office of the chief minister, get for do with procurement. We see the Auditor General's report mention, waiting you not mention. So waiting you see so where the Auditor General you not see in a report where get for do with them purchase of items, we go through procurement or not go through procurement.
Well, the audit service don't do tremendously well over the years, because if we look at the content of the GTT report, you look at the content, most of the discussion we have with the COI, Commission of Inquiry, get to do with the primary material from the audit service. It's a wonderful job. But a few days ago, you see how officials of the government were even, and the agents, they even been attacked the audit service. But moving from the audit service, they capture the entire financial arrangement of the country. Now, a sampling of sectors, okay? In the case of the office of the chief minister, as you highlight, the audit service looked for 2019. Our report captures not just 2019, but the entire 2.5 years of the Motors administration. Let's say going to 3 years now, from 2018, August 27, where the accounts will talk about the big operator, because there are many things we need to highlight before we talk about procurement in this case. Issues of legality, as you mentioned. So, two things occur to me. It's either the audit service was not provided with all of the material of audit, and then you talk about this, the unwillingness of public officials to submit themselves to real scrutiny by the audit by government auditors or the audit service. Secondly, the failure of public officials to respond to management queries by the audit service. These are all in the audit report from 2015 to now, or you go back to any other period, or you look at the recent one. These are all reflected there. So the audit service, if there are reports or indications of issues where we report that the audit service not capture, it could be a number of other things. One, possibly the office of the chief minister not provide some of this material to them. And secondly, we cover a time period that stretches beyond 2019. So there are things that we have highlighted which the audit service may not have looked at as at now, or that they might look at in the future.
Mr. Bah, there are also
they may have
allegations that
in
you
the
have
process
been paid
because
for
government
some of them working so way they do. How true is that?
Say the question again.
There are allegations also that then they pay you for do them publications. They are pay you and your team, the Africanist Press, for some of their publication they are so way una they do. How true is it?
Would that pay we? Waited in the pay we. What does that mean?
Una self they into corrupt practices also.
because we highlight evidence of corruption in the Mother Bureau administration, and we talk about these issues. Government will talk to them committed to be scrutinized and committed to fighting corruption and graft and reduce public spending and close leakages. When a journalist or a group of research institutions like ours highlight some of these inadequacies or question marks on the way in the managed public finance, so that means that somebody they pay with. It gets at the question of what are the questions? The question here for us is whether the government is committed. So we are not receiving money from any. No. I've answered that question from the beginning. Tell you say there are people involved in this who are not Sierra Leoneans. But that's why I told you, don't look at the question as me, Chernor Bah, because that's the thing. I see these people writing about Chernor Bah. They don't go to the point of even saying I'm a Guinean. I just read a newspaper headline where somebody sent to me say I'm a Sierra Leonean Guinean. That not to solve the issue. The issue here is, do we have a bloated payroll under the Bureau administration? One, how much the travel expenditure of the president don't cost the national budget? Is it right to allocate $3 million to the office of the first lady that is not a legal entity? Why forget an account in the Bank of Sierra Leone? Okay.
On a time, you now be also a politician.
When we come to the office of the chief minister, I want to raise this before we forget about it, because when the discussion is spread all across the place with the time for missed issues. Number one, what is the importance of this publication for the office of the chief minister, where we are saying 34 billion leones has been spent on irregular procurement and also on travel per diem? I have seen responses around the fact that this is parliament approval. But let me say this. Much of that expenditure, if you look at the report, much of that expenditure went to the Directorate of Science, Technology and Innovation. What you have to understand is that the Directorate of Science, Technology and Innovation is not even a legal it's not even a legal entity. Like how you get a government agency, for example, like EDSA, or you get the NPPA, or you get Guma Valley, where they are government agencies established by an act of parliament. The STI is not established by parliament. It cannot receive money on its own from the public budget. The only difference between DSTI and the office of the first lady is because the government take the expenditure of DSTI, put it under a supposed ministry, the office of the chief minister. So you people have to look at this report on the basis of the illegality of the funding in the first place. A government agency, while the president gets the power to appoint anybody into any office, but an institution, when an institution they operate like DSTI, the structural arrangement in the first place is even illegal, because it's not established by an act of parliament. So which means that much of 60 to 70% of the expenditure we talk about in the office of the first. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. if it's operating as an agency, as a directorate, it can either be a directorate under the Ministry of Higher Education and Science and Technology.
We try for wrap up
Then
this
you will
interview.
get the director.
Mr. Bah, we try for wrap up this interview now. So let me look at the in your publication also. You make mention of 20 CSOs and also 20 journalists within at the payroll of the government. How when we will see that you publish the listed in the.
There is no publication in which I mentioned that. I said in a radio interview, in a TV, in an online radio interview, that many of these journalists, for example, when they go on a radio, they go on Facebook, they write, say, they call me names. One of the one we just write, like News 24, they write this banner headline, say, me na a Guinean Sierra Leonean. When in actual fact, I was born in Makini, raised there, went to school there, my papa na dey born, my mama na dey born. You call me Guinean because I write about type of a government of a country in which I'm born. You call me a foreigner because of that one. You try to take me citizenship.
The media
you don't understand?
So you say you don't ever say that?
There is nowhere in the Africanist Press report, I say this, there is nowhere in any publication which we said that I said, when we look at public financial records in Sierra Leone, okay, I see a number of names of individuals that call themselves civil society and organizations that receive money from government. Okay, in the publication in which we have just published, we show how the government even spend money on media agencies outside of Sierra Leone. For example, you see Beyond World Studio, which is a group of journalists and researchers where they do public relations for governments and across the world, in which they paid them to organize, facilitate meetings for make the president of Sierra Leone meet with Bill Gates, for example, for making them participate at the Goalkeepers Conference. Nobody knew about that. Did you know about the fact that these people were paying media agencies outside of Sierra Leone for public relations? They never advertised
finally, Mr. Bah, finally, I will believe say we'll for they get you for get some of the information there. Once upon a time, you know, be politician and also journalist. So which one you stand on now?
But anybody where they try to make a distinction between a journalist and a political activist in Sierra Leone, I don't know the history of the media. Look at Wallace Johnson. Wallace Johnson was one of the most prominent journalists in West Africa, trade unionist, a political organizer of that nature. Look at all across Africa. It's not new. When you come with that kind of distinction, you are basically saying people like Charles Magai, who is a lawyer, cannot be active in politics. People in America, doctors like Salman Motors, cannot be active in politics. So the fact of the matter is the journalism and the press is an avenue through which we express and participate in the debates on public policy. To be active in politics also is a constitutional right of every citizen. That means a member. There is nothing wrong in a multi-party environment where you belong to an organization, whether political, trade union, or whatever. So I think these people who try to draw that distinction, they need to go back and read the media history. If they have gone to media schools, they go back and study.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bah, for when you talk to Radio Democracy.
Yeah, Chernoh Bah don't talk this. I know say you know what you hear, maybe not to the same thing me hear because I feel say I still the sleep and I the dream. Let me comment down and tell me what you hear, yeah, if I really hear am or na dream I still the dream. Anyway, the procurement somebody, the head of the National Procurement Authority, been come up and explain and try for defend the chief minister and the right way the Africanist press right. But guess what? You will still get one no-go area inside we had. You know, the office of the First Lady. After we don't defend the chief minister serious one, then you get for ask him about the office of the First Lady. The thing you get for come up, now this. Listen, I come back just now.
We want to welcome the chief executive, the procurement office, the boss there, with Kaya this morning for look at processes and systems, and then different MDA there where the Africanist press done the right. But good morning, Mr. Swari, Mohamed Swari, and welcome, Ibrahim Swari, sorry, and welcome to the program. Good morning, Salon.
Good morning, Asma, and good morning, the people of Sierra Leone.
We don't look at the publications from the Africanist press, in which many of them get for do with procurements and processes, how they purchase some of the things them we talk about. On a whole, how your office take this whole revelation from the Africanist press?
Well, I want to seize the opportunities for say thank you. Thank you to Chernor Bah and thank you to the people of Sierra Leone. I see victory. Victory in the sense, prior to this time, nobody pay attention to procurement or processes and procedure. And if in the bio-led government decide for allow prudency in terms of fiscal management and procurement being one of the hubs and the NPPA being the regulatory body, and we try for make sure say the people of Sierra Leone really know about processes and procedure. Now we see Sierra Leoneans in general want to know exactly how the public money is spent. Then I go sit down there as victory, because not only when we all able to know how we money spent and if they are spent properly, then we get a very good nation, because you can collect all the money on earth for your nation as long as they are not spent properly, then you still go always do inside you day. And so it means the news or what would you do, don't begin to get the kind of food we want, because that's the reason why we get NPPA hours, about the TV and the radio stations. And if today we don't begin to see people, they really talk about processes and procedure, what is that bringing to mind? That either people are listening or people don't start to read about what they do. So for me, it's good. It's good for let people begin to talk about processes and procedure. And I go only want for encourage all Sierra Leoneans we want for talk about processes and procedure, for let them know say procurement is a discipline and highly disciplined. So you know, they just feel say where you read, you don't understand them. It's something you do up to PhD level. It's not just about you reading and you assume you don't sabi.
As you say, coming from members of the public and sets of people who just show interest in procurement and procedures where they happen at different government ministries, departments, and agencies. But let we look into the ministries, departments, and agencies them as well, because not for the first time this way we don't see publications them on people not they really follow procurement policies them, where they supposed for the follow, whether they purchase or they use government money as per law. We don't they see year in year out the audit reports they come out. Other people them don't they write, but still people not don't they follow. Waiting at this problem where the NPPA self go don't identify by now, because it not new again for say people still we supposed for the follow na high offices, not they follow procurement procedures. Waiting at the problem.
In the first instance, I want to ask if the people where they follow really they look at the trend. We all know that this country say procurement has been a challenge, or the expenditure arm has been a challenge. Before this government kind of power, yes, that been there all over the place. And now what this government don't can 3 years, what is the trend? Are we narrowing the gap? Is the gap still wide? When you watch at audit report, the things that will frequently be the come up, are they still coming up? Is the regulatory body playing its role like before? Or are they doing things that they've not been doing before? A clear to this nation that, yes, when the bio-led government was campaigning, it talks say the block leakages. And when it gave me the position as chief executive, one of the things we knew, and I knew it was a challenge in the procurement. And a lot of abnormalities been there in terms of pricing. You go see somebody go buy computer in a Ministry of Health, one price, and another person buy now the other ministry different price. When I take over, one of the things I get huge support from the Ministry of Finance, and before ensure say we get uniformity in terms of pricing. I took over in June. This now be the third quarter. This now be my first price norm, Whirlpool 2018. I take over and I've been third quarter, and when I take over, this now I lay emphasis on. I make sure say price norms start become a norm, and every MDA staff for follow them. So this price norm now law, and we don't make sure say all MDAs follow them. And in that same 2018, from June to December, we were able to have third quarter price norm and fourth quarter 2018. So why? Because we all know say people they raise concern about prices, the way that they bloat prices. So we put this in place and ensure say they are followed by. And from that time to today, we don't ensure say people follow the price norm.
The publication of the Africanist press, just like where Chernoh Bah say 34 billion euros they use that for on procurement, and irregular procurement. Some of them revelation they are where they come out, where they name the office system and the procurement process system. You office know about them?
Yeah, I want to set some things then straight here. I not go to any office. I just want for put things straight as a regulatory institution. When MDAs want for buy, do they come to us seek clearance? Yes. Then they come to we for seek clearance. And when we then seek clearance to we, you get different methods than what they use for the procurement. Yeah. You can do the default method when a open tender. And at the same time, the NPPA get the powers. I just want to read sections of the Act. Section 14.3 of the Act. Subject to Section 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, and 46 of this Act, the authority may endorse and give approval for the use by a procurement committee of a procurement method or methods other than competitive bidding, where the approval requirement of the procurement entity is in the opinion of the authority merits such endorsement and approval. Now, me sitting as chief executive, the law give me the mandate in an event an MDA want for buy any item in this country, and see the level of urgency or not urgency, he writes to me and asks, say, okay, I want to do sole source, I want to do restrictive tender, I want to do open tender, reduce for me instead of 4 weeks, reduce for me for 2 weeks, reduce for me for 3 weeks. I have the mandate and power based on this law for approve. So procurement is not just by open tender. You can do sole source is approved. As long as it comes to my office and we look at the merit of your justifications, if we approve them, it is applied and approved by law.
So in this case, the Chief Minister in office, where we see the African Express rights boards, and the state say over 30 billion euros they will then use on procurement, where documents are not able to lay hands on them as to how then we do that procurement. The owner office aware of that procurement, say where the office of the Chief Minister do?
Some few months in July, the office of the Chief Minister wrote to me with a minute requesting approvals for various things then. Yeah. I want to just tell you. Permanent Secretary, Office of the Chief Minister, State House, 30th July. This was my reply. Request for no objection to use restricted bidding for the construction service, purchase of vehicle, replacement of furniture fittings, and IT equipment in the Office of the Chief Minister and its IT Directorate. This was approved by me. Yeah. And in this same letter, I just want to read down. Based on all the above, NPPA endorses the use of restricted bidding in accordance with Section 41B and 42.2 of the Public Procurement Act 2016. You may ensure that the selected bidder do not share common ownership and that there is no collusion among the bidders also. Above all, due diligence must be paid to prices quoted in the NPPA most recent price norm as well as the prevailing market price. So even when we give them approval, we tie them to a price norm. So every of the purchase will happen within that procurement process was tied to this price norm when about the fourth quarter.
So, Mr. Swaye, you make strongly on enforcing the price norms. But when a purchases there cannot be done, the price is different. So how you they enforce them price norms there?
That's where most times people don't understand. It's not possible for we give approval to any entity when we realize the commonly used items within our price norm, that price is far above the prices. It's not possible.
You can monitor
everything that comes, we pay attention to prices. I want to be very, very honest here. We pay attention to prices and we look at items by items. So, yes, we not tell you say sometimes if in order now we come with price norm. If in order now price norm, then it becomes a challenge. Now make if you watch every price norm will come out. Every price norm will include other items that will say in a challenge them. It started with third quarter 2018 and up to this 2021. If you watch the first publication we'll do and this publication we'll do now, you find out say from the first publication to this publication now, we don't get more than 100 or 150 new items included in the price now.
So, sir, you think say the Africanist press pull this because they show them documents them where they show the prices where they call where they say now the prices they inflated.
Can we, if we go now to this approval again? Yes, I gave an approval for the purchase of vehicles and IT equipment. In the office of the presidency, there are certain things where, of course, the law give we the mandate for give restrictive or sources. The law, because it boils around security related issues. Like some of the IT issues we then do, and the minutes we come to me was clearly for the office of the president in setting the IT infrastructure. And if then they set the IT infrastructure for the office of the president, of course that is security. I will not allow them to go in an open tender. So when they send them, I read the minutes, I saw the justification, I gave the approval. And for the vehicles in question, those vehicles, when they ask we that they want for buy vehicle for the directorate of IT, in we price norm, the proud way they at that time in we price norm is 580 million. This price norm, fourth quarter 2018 price norm. Then when you watch at the prices, when look the price now, this is the contract signed. Because when they sign the contract, every contract they sign, they send to us copy of that contract. Yeah. In the prices, when they do shopping, when they ask for this approval, then do window shopping. And then when they do window shopping, their prices, of course, be slightly below we price. Say, for instance, the Prado in question, in our price norm, it's 580 million. In their own total purchase, the price is here now 564,375,000. You can see this is the contract.
So
yeah. So if we don't do a whole market research, we don't bench the price at fair market price is 580 million, and then somebody do a window shopping, then a day slightly above us. Can we approve or not? We can approve. So as far as me know, for the purchase of the said vehicles, yeah, approval was received from the Ministry of Finance, because I saw all these correspondence when they replied to me, when they sent request to me. They sent a letter to the Minister of Finance for funding. The Minister of Finance replied them. I have the copies, and then they had a meeting and agreed on the justifications why they need these items in question.
Then why are you to talk about so they include the 3 Toyota Land Cruisers?
This is the Toyota Land Cruiser we are discussing.
Of the Chief Minister said they buy for the STI or for the Office of the Chief Minister.
Can I read
which one you refer to?
Can I read here? Sale agreement made in October. To who? Between Salman Motors, represented by Hassan Mohammed Salim. Is it not Salman that you're discussing? This same Toyota or the Prado where I saw in the report is this same contract that I have here. So I'm talking specific on this contract. And as far as me know, you understand, did they ask for approval? Yes. And do we have the caveat that gives us that mandate? Yes. You go to section 14.3 of the Act, gives me the power for approve if endorse and approve any method where somebody they use if we think as a regulatory body, a day we think. And if this price nominal law, we don't say already, then price is here. We don't do we own general in the shopping, now law. Then somebody want for buy. A request to we say I want buy motor direct sourcing. And they will tell you, say, if you buy direct sourcing, make sure you use the price as a tag. Then the person go out, he go get in the shopping and get below we. Can we approve it? Yes.
So let me look at NPPA saving. The government started inside 2019. You've been inside an interview, but how you save governments from losing 400 billion loans. So waiting you able for save government inside 2020, because we don't go now into 2021 with all the issues there. We always they come out where they show weakness in the system.
Very, very soon we're going to see a bulletin come out for the last quarter of 2020. And that bulletin, you see how much we protect and prevent government from getting into contracts that are not good. The things we are going to encourage everybody. Sometimes what is happening in Sierra Leone? Not only bad news people they spread. We don't get time for even look at the job of others. Look at the institutions the way don't they. I want for just take case in point. For me, NPPA, I took NPPA with just 37 staff. And within that 37 staff, few don't go, skill and unskilled labor. Skill and unskilled. And as I speak now, we are about 112 to 113 to do the job for Sierra Leone. So if you see the wages don't increase, it's not just coming from the Ministry of Finance. Even we at the MDAs, when I took over as chief executive, I cannot run with 37 people. Even with the 100 people, 112 people that I have now, it's still not enough to regulate and monitor procurement across this country. For all people forget efficiency and effectiveness. No, I'm coming. I heard from my brother saying that they give the politicians bloated salaries. Sometimes you criminalize every Sierra Leonean way they work for the people of Sierra Leone. If I'm working as chief executive and I have a lot of tax to do, then say they pay me 20 or 40 or 50 million. Am I supposed to have that kind of salary? Do I work for that salary? Why you want to criminalize me salary? And then if you say, now only we they don't get appointment, now they get them surprised. No, I don't know what finance, I don't know the amount of people finance don't recruit. I just want to set example for NPPA. I started that institution with 37 staff. Today we are 112. Right. And out of that 112, every of those staff are paid from the Ministry of Finance. So, it's not from my pocket.
So the NPPA concern with the Africanist press, anytime they publish, they must some Simons they will get for do with processes now procurement we not go the right way according to what they can investigate. You office worry about that?
The only concern I get, I want to let my brother know say it is only the NPPA that has the power to interpret this law. If you go to section 14G, now we get the expertise in, if not to win a court. So I'm not against him doing the investigative journalism, but my door is widely open. At any point in time, he wants to talk about processes and procedure in this country. Any MDA, if he gets to a website enable for COT he wants there, let him call me directly. I will respond to him. Let's just give me text, say, this is Chernor Bah. I want to investigate this one. I will give him every detail he wants to know. Because one of the core values of procurement is transparency, fairness, and value for money. So for me, like this publication where he do, I get concerned with him. He's a young man like me. I was expecting like the investigative journalism way they do. You have a regulatory body in this country. Before it gets conclusions, since he knows somebody there where they regulate, and I think we don't meet before.
So what you get for do now? Because the process is still continue for come up now, the investigation the way it did do. You get your price norm. Your systems now then MDAs there so now one big issue. What you office they do for say indeed all procurement processes go through the right process before procurements are made.
Asma, I want to let people just not look at the downside of procurement process in this country. What are the mileages that we've achieved? You cannot compare the mileages that we achieve now to the downside. Now, every processes, from what this government can and took over, we do end-to-end review. Why you think we talk about Office of the Chief Minister, Office of the Chief Minister, they give evidences? Because every activity we start, as long as it deal with volume money, yeah, it comes to our office, we review them and ensure.
So it's not only about Office of the Chief Minister, like all other publications where you don't make with regards procurement. Mm-hmm. You office aware.
We know aware, and that's where I'm asking him. If you want for really give the people of Sierra Leone a balanced report about processes and
aware
procedures.
In the sense, if you're aware of them purchases there, so and if they go through the right procurement.
If you watch at, I want to be specific here. If you watch at the one we see on the Office of the Chief Minister, 99% are aware.
So what about the one for the Office of the First Lady in purchase of furnitures?
Office of the First Lady. I don't want to dive into that, but I want to tell you, say, every procurement activity.
Why you know for going
to the First Lady? We go due process, it come now office.
Including the recent one then with the Africanist press being
I want to tell
published.
you, say every procurement activity will happen at the Office of the First Lady. every procurement activity will happen at the office of the First Lady came to my office. As long as they are above the threshold, came to my office.
All right. Well, we go for the call you. Because of time, we'll go for tap the program for now. The program now, Good Morning Salon. Many thanks to you, Mr. Ibrahim Sware, for where you come, head of NPPA. This morning he come and he confirms say almost all the procurement same way don't they happen at the MD, they go to in office and he aware of.
Of course, the office of the First Lady in a no-go area, alright? So, anyway, like all time, I can just kind of encourage you here for yourself. I not come for Kantoko. I just want for pass this information to you no more, yeah? But we the come na net, me and my brother Justin, and we can analyze certain things them. So don't miss them all. And amongst the things them where we can for analyze na net, na the chief minister, as he use billions of we country in money for compensate in party them overseas. Make sure say you join me 9 p.m. Salon time. One love to you all.